here with Derek Vandermeer, the new chair of the NCAA Wrestling Committee and Senior Associate Athletic Director at Central Michigan University. And first off, this is your first run through as at the NWCA convention. And first of all, what are your general thoughts about the core of coaches that are here for the convention?
Well, I think that the people that attend the convention are the people that have demonstrated a passion and a vision for where the sport needs to go. And I think that's exciting to see, because I think when you meet people here, I think you see a strong sense of responsibility, a strong sense of their role in ensuring that wrestling stays strong and viable at all levels, whether it's Division I, II, III, NAIA, and even women's sport coaches. And I think that that's, women's sport wrestling coaches. And I think that that's very positive. And you need to have that sort of commitment and involvement in order to maintain a vision that can be comprehensively managed in the sport.
As far as coming in after Brad Travaiola, who had an extensive wrestling background at Northwestern and with the Big Ten Conference, do you feel you've got some big shoes to fill at all?
Huge shoes. Absolutely huge shoes. I mean, Brad Travaiola, I think, has done an amazing job for the sport. It's an honor to work with him. I've learned a great deal from him and his style and how he managed things. I also know my limitations. That's where you have people around you like Ron Beachler and Bob and the wrestling coaches I've worked with on the committee, from Jim Zielinski and Gary Taylor, and all these people who have been an immense help to me, to help me understand what is critical to the sport, and also to understand the sport-specific rules, and also the competitive issues and the safeguards issues. And those are people that have been critical in my understanding and growth in this particular position.
In some of the breakout sessions, the discussion centered around the future of the national duels, whether there's NCAA involvement, of course, with the rule changes that just finished up. But where are we with the NCAA relevance and its association with the national duels as possibly taking over? Is that something realistic? There's been some discussion about it, but for the folks that weren't in the meeting, where's the NCAA involvement with that event going?
Well, I think we have to start with a strong business model, and we have to start with a very strong vision that has buy-in from everyone. I think if you don't have that in place, I think it's very difficult to gain the support of outside stakeholders who don't understand wrestling or don't completely understand the potential of an event like this. So I think we have to start with really creating a very carefully crafted vision, and changing the format of the NCAA duels, where looking at some sort of regional or satellite locations with a feeder system to a Final Four is going to be very critical for elevating the status of the competition, and also really giving a beautiful stage where these teams can compete for a team national championship.
Another issue that was being discussed rather extensively last off-season all the way through here was the issue of the shift of the season. Where is that, where we stand? Is there going to be a shift? Has it been tabled? What's the discussion there?
Well, at this point it's been tabled. Once again, the committee did an extensive amount of research on this particular topic. One of the things that we looked at was the impact across all divisions. Wrestling is unique in the fact that everything that impacts Division I impacts Division II, Division III, and the entire community of wrestling. And that's something that we are very sensitive to. We don't want to take action on something that could have a significant and adverse impact on participation at the Division III level. If we do it, we're going to have sound reasons and rationale. We're going to have measurable goals and outcomes of what we expect to happen, and we're going to have increased performance, whether it's going to be media participation or viewership or television opportunities. That's going to be the rationale for shifting, and not just try it and see if it works. The consequences of making those types of decisions are very detrimental for the sport. So focusing on what our expectations are, and then seeing if we can achieve that objective.
Questions been asked by people in the media, myself included in the past, of the importance of wrestling to the NCAA, because we lose a lot of programs. Women's wrestling's not yet an emerging sport, yet other, it seems like, less viable programs are under that banner, and some of them look at women's wrestling as a complement to men's wrestling. And then there's the question of, does the NCAA really care about wrestling? I'm going to ask you the same question. Does the NCAA care about wrestling as a whole?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I mean, I don't think you can sit there when you talk about what the NCAA is. The NCAA is not an office in Indianapolis. The NCAA is the membership, and let's not forget that. And so when you ask the question, does the NCAA value wrestling, we have to understand our responsibility the coaches, the administrators that work with the sport of wrestling, and all of us in making sure that wrestling has an opportunity to be prioritized on collegiate campuses. That's our job. That's what we need to do. Do we care? It's a very rhetorical question. And the question is, do we care about the sport of wrestling? Do we value it? Are we going to invest in its future? Are we going to attend the NCAA convention and be part of the strategic plan of the organization? The responsibility rests on us. It doesn't rest on an office in Indianapolis. If we think that and we expect them to solve our problems, unfortunately, they'll never be solved. If we put the responsibility on ourselves, we're very carefully drafting strategic plans and working very hard to establish a strong presence in our communities, that we're reaching out to our communities, we're reaching out to our faculties and our universities, and are making ourselves indispensable on the campus. Then guess what? We've prioritized it, and it's important to our community. But if we sit in our offices and think that it's someone else's job, wrestling will not grow, and obviously will continue to be not important to the NCAA, which is our responsibility. It is something that we have the ability to shape that outcome.
In terms of, people may just look back, and there's critics everywhere, of course. If you read, the wrestling community is very tied in with message boards and social interactions and such, and sometimes the reactive response is not the correct one or the educated one. Even though this is a new position for you, what has the NCAA done? It's kind of a loaded question, but what has the NCAA done to raise the image of wrestling in the last couple of years? How is that evident?
Well, I think it's very evident in the quality of the championship that they put together. I think that the NCAA staff in Indianapolis are focusing their attention on things that are critical to the future visibility of the sport. Whether it's the selection show or the online streaming of content that's relevant to the wrestling. And once again, it's up to the committee. It's up to the membership to continue to define what it feels is important. I think the NCAA, from my term on the committee, has been very open to supporting wrestling. But once again, it's up to us as a committee and up to the membership to continue to define expectations and goals. And I think they've been very open to finding ways to support us, to help us achieve those goals.
What about the role? Obviously, the NCAA is a member organizations, member schools. From a health of wrestling standpoint, is there anything the NCAA can do to help not look at programs when there's a budget crisis or there's a gender equity issue, to not look at wrestling and go, okay, you're gone?
Yeah.
That's, I think some people are looking for, what's the NCAA doing to help not cut programs?
I would get back to the initial fact is that the NCAA is the membership. It's not a singular organization. The NCAA is not shaping those decisions. The NCAA is not the one that is dictating the course. It's individual membership institutions that are obviously in very difficult economic and budget climates. There's a lot of legal requirements in how they make these decisions, and I'm not giving them, an excuse to make these decisions, because I think that, once again, I think that we as a membership have the ability to control these outcomes. I think coaches have the ability to make themselves indispensable on their campus. How can the NCAA continue to support and assist? I think, once again, prioritizing the championship, putting the emphasis that is a profitable enterprise. It's one of 5 championships that generate profitability. It's a great sport. At the campus level, that responsibility rests with us. It rests with administrators and coaches to sit there and position the sport as being indispensable in these very difficult economic times around the country. And I think it is being done. I think our coaches have very, from being at this, these seminars and in these workshops and the mentoring and the leadership academy, there's no lack of focus on what needs to be done. And I think you see coaches are beginning to understand how they can make a difference in saving programs. It starts with us, and we need to just increase the awareness and understanding of the sport of wrestling. It's easy to be marginalized when people don't understand what you are. They think it's just about rolling out mats, and and they don't understand anything, and guys wrestling on mats, and they don't understand really what the benefit could be to the campus community and what student athletes are getting from their experience and how they're going on and being successful, and understanding the stories behind what has made wrestling successful. And that's our job. We've got to put a story with that, and so it becomes something that's indispensable on the college campuses.
What about the role of there's big contracts with basketball and football and things of that nature, even like the football championship subdivision. That's the Division I championship, even though what's known as the bowl subdivision isn't an NCAA championship per se. But what can, say the media is always stretched thin with newspapers dying and things of that nature, and online mediums becoming almost more the norm. As far as a hypothetical, what would the NCAA's role be if there was a push to put a match of the week on ESPN, one dual meet a week? As far as how would that have to start?
Well,
it's obviously an idea rolling around in some people's heads, but
right.
If there's a hypothetical, how would it go?
Well, I think that's something that is market driven. The match of the week involves, two separate institutions. Obviously you'd have an intercollegiate competition, and it would start with two different institutions. You'd have a market that would demand it, and you'd have, external companies and television companies that would look at that as a viable opportunity to increase their interest on television during the time block. And once again, I think that's something that is viable. Once again, if the sport continues to grow and there continues to be increased awareness of the sport and popularity of the sport, once again, the NCAA probably won't. The NCAA operates the championships.
They don't facilitate.
They don't facilitate. They don't facilitate all the the regular season competition that occurs. I mean, whether it's the television contracts that the Big Ten Network has, or the SEC, or the Big 12, they're not involved in those regular season contracts. So the market is kind of driving the growth of those opportunities. Very similar. The NCAA is operating the championship, and the rules and regulations that govern the sport for the membership during the year. And so that opportunity could develop, but it's going to grow out of the demand by the marketplace.